our main course. So those are the games on the weekend. And the games coming up next weekend, the Hurricanes have a bye to figure out what's going wrong and how can they get Geordie Barrett back. If they all get in there, just each one of them massage him, take turns. I don't know what they need to do. So Canes with a bye, and the first game we've got the Blues at home taking on the Highlanders. So both undefeated in this competition. Who do we have returning? Who wants to take us through this game?
Oh, this is all Harry.
Don't all jump at once. Harry, mate.
Sorry, I just saw someone was getting involved, so I thought I'd let you have it. Nehe Milner-Skudder obviously is the one that we all want to see. There's definitely a bit of a weakness, in my opinion at least, with that right wing with Sam Gilbert over there. So I think it's Nehe Milner-Skudder's jersey if he can get himself fit and right. He's obviously been off for 18 months, having, I think, recurrent shoulder injuries even. I think it might have been 2 in a row. Having a lapse and a secondary problem there. So he was originally said to be targeting rounds 3 or 4. So hopefully we see him this week. Not sure 100% just yet. There definitely hasn't been anything to confirm just yet.
Yeah, I heard something from him as well. He's saying he's early on in his career, his injuries were all lower limb. So it was hard to sort of come back from. These are all upper body. So he's apparently fit, he's quick, he's agile, but it's just getting that shoulder right so he can actually take the contacts.
Oh, he's a winger anyway. He doesn't need to tackle, does he?
Just don't make tackles.
Yeah,
exactly right.
Mate, put him at fullback, mate. Will Jordan made 3 tackles that. He could just miss 3 and they'll be fine.
Sweet.
Yep, for sure, mate.
The other one, on the other injury front as well, just to knock them off, Josh Ioane, we still don't have any more information about his groin injury, his groin tear. Generally, it is something that players play through when it's not 100% fit, unlike some of the other muscle injuries, just because it stops your lateral movement, your sideways and your step, which is obviously a big part of his game. But they can kind of play straight up and down the field a little bit more and even get a little bit of a kicking game or a shorter kicking game off as well. So you won't see him kicking for goal if he's not completely right. But it wouldn't surprise me if he played, if he was half fit. It depends how serious that tear was. And then the last one, I mean, the guy that everyone wanted to see when they were making the announcements, Dan Carter. He TC came out and he admitted that he has to play catch up to get his fitness right back up to the level of the other Kiwi Super Rugby players. He said he was trying to do a month block of training at the moment. And then even at that point, he was going to try and see where he matched up against some of the other players. So we'll kind of see if he's up to scratch at that point, but you won't see him for at least another couple of weeks.
Do you reckon the deal's once he beats Bowden's Bronco, then they'll start him? Is that the...
Yeah, exactly.
Good luck. Look, I think the big talk that we alluded to, and then I suppose has been coming out of the Blues is that back row. We already touched on it before, but after that performance last week, do you think they could really change it up? The writing's on the wall, I think, for Blake Gibson. I'm not sure if the boys are fit to go. Tom Robinson, he's obviously could pose a bit of a threat, a bit of dilemma there because if he does come back, he's been really solid at that number 6 role as well. But there's no word on how his injury is going, as far as I know.
Does anyone have a problem with playing Tom Robinson at lock? I know. Look, obviously, yes. Paddy Tupelo is really good, and Josh Goodhue's not bad as well. But if you want to fit them all in there, just put Robbo on in lock.
He's just not a lock. I think you might start to ruin the balance of the team. The only thing I would say is that Hoskins Tutu did get up and steal a line out on the weekend, so maybe he's a lock as well. Just play both positions, doesn't matter.
Yeah, but what do you lose in Tom Robinson putting him in lock? You gain from Akira playing 6. So maybe it does work.
That's true. And what on Hoskins, I mean, we're talking about how terrible the lineouts have been in New Zealand. The Blues probably have had the form lineout. I mean, with Paddy, Goodhue, and Hoskins, for all intents and purposes, another lock, the way how athletic he is and getting up there. If we add Big Red back in there as well, they'll be unstoppable. That's 4 options. That's 4 very good options in the lineout.
Does Big Sauce take that many lineouts? So I thought it was more of like a backup option.
I think
he would be the backup option out of those 4, but he's definitely an option. I mean, he's a tall bloke. He gets up there.
Hmm.
Another thing was, look, those Highlanders, that forward pack was really dominant last week. Yes, it was under the roof in good weather, and you could see something a little bit different if we see that wet weather like we did on Sunday's match. But it's just going to be a big task for those forwards moving forward. Back row solid. The second row, Goodhue has actually really impressed me. But it's going to be a different ask, I suppose, for them this week too.
I hadn't actually thought about it till just then, but yeah, I'm pretty bloody excited for so Tutu Akira versus Frizzell and Tutu. I mean, that is heat right there.
There's been all this talk about Tutu, and people are forgetting about Tutu.
Tutu.
Yeah, and forget about Frizzell, mate. He hasn't done anything in 18 months.
He has not. That's really sad.
Not going to argue it. It's fair, yeah.
Look, Ken confirm as well. Auckland's looking at rain on Saturday, so might be a bit of a grind.
There you go.
That means not very much from the backs.
Will be good to see. I was talking about the Blues left edge in the review of the game from last week and how deadly Caleb Clark and before that Taleo was. Well, I was just looking at through the Highlanders team, and Jonah Nareki and Rob Thompson are two very solid counters to that. If there was a couple of backs out wide that could shut down some of that attacking flair and just make good decisions and put good hits on, I feel like Nareki and Rob Thompson are right up there as two of the best players to actually do it. So
throw Tompkinson in as well,
I think.
Yeah, I think throw Tompkinson as well. That guy's a hit man, shooting out of line and shutting down those opportunities. And he is a guy that can shift out a little bit wider on that defensive line as well. He doesn't always stay in tight. So, I mean, they've got a few guys there that definitely could try and shut down and put a bit of pressure there. So it'll be interesting to see if that's their tactics this week.
Yeah, I think Bobby T is one of those defenders that always makes really good decisions. So he'll be a big impact in that team.
He makes the smarter decisions than Tompkinson, but Tompkinson does like to hurt people. So
he's the yellow card magnet. Is what he is.
Yeah, for sure.
Very good. All right. Well, in terms of forwards, we might see Liam Coleman back into the mix. Ash Dixon did play very well last week. He bagged himself a try. First try scorer. Harry didn't bet on him, even though he was allocated him.
And advised to.
It's true, yep. But, I mean, Coleman, if you had to pick one of the two, you're picking Coleman, right? He's an All Black.
100%.
So despite they have shared that role very well and Dixon's a key part of the leadership, I think we'll see Coleman slot back in for this game. They need him. And, yeah, I mean, do we discuss the Highlanders line? Harry and I were talking about the Highlanders line out. I said I couldn't remember at the start of Super Rugby 2020. I just remember them standing out. I couldn't remember if they were really bad or really good. And we ended up including that they were terrible. Their line out was not very good in Super Rugby. So
yeah, I think so.
Interesting to see if where they'll come out for this one. I don't remember how I think they went really well in the first week, first round of this competition. But, they'll need to be.
Harry Parkinson, mate. That's all you need.
That's it. But if you're only throwing it to one bloke, it kind of makes it an easy target. You know what I mean? Like,
apparently not.
Have a 3-man line out and just throw it to him.
No, Frizzle jumps as well.
Frizzle, yep. No, Frizzle does. Yeah, we'll see how we go with that. But what's the Highlanders' play here? What can they do different that both the Hurricanes and the Chiefs haven't managed to do against the Blues?
Harry?
To be honest with you, I think their best chance is the fact that they could potentially have a much harder working and more accurate forward pack than those two sides. I'm not really sure what they can do that those two sides can't do other than that, to be honest. So they would have to really nullify the Blues forward pack if they're going to have a chance.
Excellent. I threw you that curveball, and I'm glad you were being honest with me, Harry. I would be worried if you weren't. So that's always important. Did we talk about? You mentioned Sam Gilbert. I see your notes. Did we mention Josh Mackay? Have we given him a shout out?
Look, he's a guy there was a real buzz about leading into this season. So much of a buzz that he was in my fantasy side, and then
mine.
He was quite poor, really. But it would be nice to see him have another crack. But it's hard to know. He wasn't there during that first match, and I don't know why they pulled a guy out of what seemed obscurity from people outside New Zealand. So maybe there is more to it. If not, maybe they just expected more from him.
That's true. I definitely hyped up Josh Mackay. I mean, he was the leading ITM try scorer, and he's absolute lightning. I may have gone as far to say as he's going to fill the shoes of, fill some of the shoes of Ben Smith. I don't know what I said there, but
huge goal.
Yeah, no, but we'll see how he goes. All right, well, that might round us out for that game. Harry, no, sorry, one more
for you. This is my theory: Mitch Hunt and Aotearoa Black are the exact same player. Great kicking games, make great decisions, good under pressure. don't offer anything else. What do you think?
I think they're the same player, but used in different ways. Hunt's the guy you finish a game with. That's not Terry Black.
They're both a kind of, bring your pillow with you type of player, really. It's not what I want in my 10. I'll leave it there.
No one's going to name your fantasy side after Mitch Hunt.
No, they're not. Well, the Iceman. I don't know. He's got some merit before us, but all right. Well, with that bombshell, let's move on to the next game. Traditionally, I would say over the last few years, probably produced some of the best rugby we've ever seen. I could think of some Crusaders and Chiefs games. Remember that one in Suva in Fiji? I don't know. There's probably 2 or 3 have been some of the best games I've ever watched. So I don't know if that level of rugby will be reproduced again this weekend, but either way, it's always an exciting game.
It'll be interesting to see. I think this is a must-win for the Chiefs. If they get another loss here, that's probably going to rule them out, seeing as you've got 8 matches. It's a race to the finish. There's no finals. So it's going to be a really important one for them. Gatlin was talking that the team was trying to overplay their hand because they didn't think that the set piece was solid enough. So it'll be interesting to see how they come out of this one. There's people that you'd love to throw in this match. You'd love to throw Ardron on to sort of shore up that forward pack a little bit. You'd love to throw Sam Cane in, but he's missed that first 2 rounds with a lower back injury, and there's still definitely no certainty around when he'll be returning. But Gatlin did say Cane went for a scan and that he's probably going to get an injection. So I'm not too sure. We're thinking a cortisone injection. I don't really know what his back injury is there, Harry, but we should see him soon.
Yeah, I would think, originally they were saying he was just pulling up tight from footy, which I would have thought was, a pretty insignificant back injury, and I was expecting him to come back pretty quickly. But if they're talking cortisone, I can only assume that they're doing it because they're worried he's got a nerve root injury or something like that, compressed nerve. So if that was the case, you're looking at 6 weeks, 12 weeks a lot of the time to get back from those kinds of things. And I don't think a cortisone injection is any kind of guarantee for him to be back soon either. So I think Gatlin might be playing the bluff at the moment that you might see Sam Cane earlier rather than later. And I'm not sure that's true. So, the wording around his injury and how it's progressing at the moment is not overly positive, to be honest.
Yep, for sure.
Sounds like he just needs a bit of Danko rub, mate. A bit of deep heat, you know what I mean? Just that's from the medical.
Tiger balm, mate. You need some tiger balm.
Tiger balm, exactly. Or a bit of harden the cup. No, too much.
Probably.
Yeah, Harry. What else is to look forward to in this game?
That's a great question.
Thank you for the question.
Look, the thing I'm hanging out for is clearly Solomon Alamalo.
You.
Who starts? Who's he start over? Sean Wainui or Sean Stevenson?
One of the Seans has got to go.
One of them. My gut feeling is Wainui is still the preference of those wingers. So I reckon he'll start and Alamalo will replace Shawnee Stevenson.
Yeah, if you don't spell Sean properly, then you're probably going to get dropped. That's all I'll say. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure. Harry and I were talking about this. Stevenson's sort of that Rob Horn of the team. Is always good. No, sorry, Wainui is sorry. He's always good, but there's just something that doesn't seem right about him. But he's been so solid for them week in, week out. Stevenson is all promise, and he's maybe fulfilled a little bit of that recently, but he just doesn't have that consistency that you get from Wainui. So I think Wainui will stay there.
That's it, isn't it? Shooter's a bit hit or miss. And Wainui's also important because he, the way that they roll out their 23, he covers the centres as well. So,
yep.
Yeah. Speaking of centres, we say it every week, Nankerville or Quintapai. I mean, I feel like Quintapai is just getting further and further established there. He was, as we said, he was their top fantasy player last week, so the most contributions around the park.
He was an interesting one. I mean, he offered so much in attack and he was very threatening, but he did just drop the ball cold in some pretty important moments. He made a few really big errors, which maybe that's just showing his age. He's only, 21 or so, and they've sort of thrown him in that deep end when they've got a really good class option there as well. So whether they go back to sharing that time, something they were doing early on in Super Rugby this year, I don't know, but it'll be interesting to see how that evolves.
Well, the issue is I don't think Nankerville's ever established himself as a big enough mainstay to warrant selection. I think Tamua Manu is probably the bloke that's a higher chance of pushing up to that starting role, if anyone is.
God, I forgot he existed, to be honest with you. We talk about Nankerville so much.
I think we were thinking of ALB at 12 and thinking that I suppose Nankerville can play both, Tamua Manu can play both. I suppose, yeah, for sure.
I think we've talked about this before as well. Do you guys? So I think ALB needs to get more involved. Like, I have no doubt that he's doing all that stuff that you don't see, like really keeping the ship afloat in defence, just calling out, movements and where to go and whatnot. But he just hasn't managed to get himself into it in the offence. I don't know if he's just not roaming as much or what it's been. But do we think he's better in Super Rugby at 12 or 13? I've always thought he can inject himself more at 13. You guys have disagreed with me.
No.
Better at 12, I think, generally.
I think he's shown himself to be a better 13. I thought he could evolve into a great 12. But I suppose it depends on who that centre pairing is with him, that partner is with him, because he can play a very different game when he's got Nankerville with him, very different game when he's got Tamua Manu with him. But he's not having as much influence as 12 as he has at 13, I think.
Yeah, I don't mind put him anywhere. Yeah, he had a bit of a quiet game, but I'm not that worried. He's I still said, all through the World Cup, I think he's the best centre in the world. So I'm not worried wherever you put him. Yeah,
no, I just mean how does he get more involved? And I can only think at 13 perhaps is where they can do it.
So, give him the ball more. That's it.
Yeah, but at 12 he thinks he has to pass it.
Yeah,
he doesn't think it.
Give it to Quintapay, the best centre in the world. Just hold on.
It's not the same as Laumape, mate, where you just want to give him the ball every time, mate. You got to give him the ball and a bit of space.
Yeah,
work his magic.
Yeah, for sure. The last time these guys played each other was in round 2 of the actual Super Rugby this season. Chiefs getting the job done 25-15, but that was a Mo'unga-less Crusaders, if you remember. Havili was playing 12 and he looked good at 10, and he looked good at 10, but they will be a different side with Mo'unga controlling that back line and controlling the side around the paddock. I touched on this earlier. This was the one I was thinking. Brad Weber with his head knock, he passed at HIA, but Gatlin was saying he has to go through the protocols this week. So that's the one we were talking about before. But yeah, look, the Chiefs.
I think just on that, I think you didn't give we didn't give the Chiefs a big enough of a shout out just then. We've been bagging the Chiefs, saying we're amazed at how they've lost. Was it the last four of the last 5 or 4 of the last 5? I think. But I mean, that's just this year the Chiefs beat the Crusaders. I mean, that's a big deal. That's no mean feat right there.
The Mo'unga-less Crusaders, though.
I don't even care, mate. If Havili was playing 10, does it make that much of a difference?
Very true.
Yes.
Yeah.
It does.
Not fair.
But yeah, look.
Yeah, go on.
And one more point out of this one for me, at least, was the Chiefs. They're the team that are playing 4 matches in a row on the trot. So they've had a couple tough matches. Do we start to see that rotation? So do we start to see another centre come in? We're already talking about another winger come in. Do we see some of these guys having a little bit of a break? Because this is week in, week out, tough footy against another Kiwi opponent. You don't get your week off against the Waratahs or the Rebels this is hard physical match week after week.
I feel like they have to win this week, and then they're at home next week against the Hurricanes, which, I mean, there's no easy game, but it's probably the easier of the 2 games. So I reckon you've got to throw all your chips in this week and try and get the win over the Crusaders away from home, and then try and consolidate next week. So definitely a couple of tweaks, but I reckon more subs next week.
Yep.
All right. Well, then with that, let's put our tips in. So what are our 2 tips? We'll start with...
Hot off the press.
All right.
And you won't read it anywhere else. Scott Barrett.
Are they reading this conversation or?
I hope they do listen to this conversation, because I'll tell them what's going to happen. Scott Barrett has a plantar fascia tear. And basically now Razor Robinson has said that he's in risk of missing all of the Super Rugby Aotearoa season. And basically, if you have a look at these high-grade injuries, they're often 3-4 plus months to come back. And if it's a rupture and he's looking at surgery, you're looking at, 12 months. And these surgeries aren't that successful. There's not that much research into them at this point. They can be relatively dire situations, you'd expect him to come back, don't get me wrong, but they're nowhere near as well established in the research as what a lot of other injuries are. So he could definitely miss this season, definitely.
Yeah, that's big. It all depends on how bad it is. But even if it's a minor tear of that plantar fascia, that can be a lingering, really tough injury to get through.
You lose some power and you push off. That means you lose your speed, you lose your vertical jump. You're in a boot for 4 to 6 weeks, which is a big deconditioning element as well. Like it's a serious problem for him.
Yeah, for sure.
And isn't it just sad that classic Crusaders, oh no, they don't have anyone to replace him. No world-class All Blacks that just came back into the team at all, like Sam Whitelock.
Yeah, that's exactly
classic. Okay, well, very good. There you go. Heard it here first. The expert medical knowledge of the Dales. So anyway, now you've now had some time to think. Tips. We're going to go with Nels first. Who are you tipping these two?
Last week was all about the away sides. This week's all about the home sides. I think the Blues and Crusaders are going to get it done and continue their form through this one. The wet weather, maybe that throws a bit of a trouble into that first game, but I do think that's the way it's going to go. The Blues got through the wet weather last week, and I think they'll do the same again.
Very good. Harry, are you following suit?
Yeah, mate. Akira Ioane and Hoskins Tutu. Mate, play me wet weather any day of the week. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
And
I
the
like that.
Crusaders, I mean, you can't tip against them, can you?
Oh, I thought you just weren't going to say anything about the other game. Just like it didn't need to be said. Just like, and the, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. Well, look, I'll make it 3 from 3. I think it's hard to go against those. I mean, the Highlanders at the start, I think we were all shocked they won the first game of this competition because at the start of the year we were like, yep, they're finishing bottom for sure. So,
yeah, they're not so bad, but they're a good side and they looked a lot more organised. So it definitely won't be an easy win.
No, that's for sure.
I say definitely, but maybe I'm not that confident. But it shouldn't be an easy win.
They had a pretty troubling period before this break, so hopefully that's not a one-off and they've changed things because they had 3 on the trot losses, including the Rebels, leading into the break. So hopefully they're a new side.
Yeah,
very good. Now Helen Lascada to come in and score 3 tries.